Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for the treat of your life. Next, coming up is the master of sales himself, right here on Cliff's Notes, Mr. Tom Hopkins. Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. Hey, we're delivering today. Let me tell you what, you better have a pen and a clean 8x14 piece of paper with both sides, because you're going to need to fill it up with writer downers today. We are really excited to have an OG, the original, one of the first and the master of sales, especially in real estate, Mr. Tom Hopkins, and we'll bring him on the show here in just a minute. C3, we do have to give deference to our Dallas Cowboys, and I just wanted to see, Travis, I wanted to see if you'd take a quick bet. I'm going to bet you, I'll lay it down, $1,000, and I'll spot you 3 touchdowns that the Cowboys don't lose this weekend.
Okay, you know what? I will take that bet only if you take my counter bet that they don't play this week.
Oh, they don't play this week. Oh, man.
I bet they don't play this week.
Oh, they okay.
It's a bye week.
It's a bye week.
It's a bye
All right.
week. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a great try, though. I'll give you credit.
I tried. I did. This is not a bye week on Cliff's Notes, folks. Travis, let's go ahead and bring on a Hall of Fame gentleman that we've gotten to know quite well here at EXP, and Glenn Sanford is obviously a raving fan of Mr. Hopkins, and Tom, we're super stoked to have you here. I was going to go through your biography here, but anybody who knows you, I mean, you've coached or trained over 5 million people. You've got some of the best sellers in sales that have ever been written, and you've just got this incredible ability to help people self-actualize and become better salespeople, and in that process, just helping them become better people in general and communicate better and just become. I mean, think about it. We do sales. Every piece of our life there's sales that's going on constantly, whether it's with a spouse, a child, a job, or whatever. And this man right here is really has the secret sauce, and I say that sincerely. So we want to welcome you to the show, sir.
Well, thank you, Cliff. And of course, it's a highlight in my life to get to talk and train and work with salespeople, because I've always believed that if you look at all the countries in the world, selling and free enterprise and capitalism is kind of the foundation of successful companies, thus successful countries. And I'm sure the folks that are viewing your program, most of them realize that, hey, the salespeople that put their ego on the line, go out and get rejected on a daily basis, get no's before they get yeses, they really are foundational to the success overall of businesses in this country. So it's an honor to have been known as a person that teaches people the art of selling, because it really is an art form. And a great painter, a Picasso, a Rembrandt, they would use a paintbrush as their tool. We in selling use words and phraseology and how we come across and our visual and verbal presentations. That's our paintbrushes, to paint a wonderful, creative relationship with a person who says yes to the opportunity that we're offering. So it's super to be with you.
Thank you. And, this whole notion that, there are born salesmen, I think that only applies to your family. They can, you have born salesmen. And so, what I want to do, though, Tom, speaking of your family, we'd love to pull the curtain back here a little bit, to kind of dig into the celebrity, and you're obviously, so well respected, and people know all of the great training, but I don't know that many people know sort of how you developed over time, and you started at a young age, and you were in real estate. Tell us a little bit about what formed the Tom Hopkins DNA? What was it
Sure.
in, back in the day when you were kind of new into sales and everything? What was it? Did you have an epiphany one day, or was it like, it took time? Tell us about that experience.
Well, I believe life is filled with days of opportunity or days of destiny. And what happened to me is I wasn't a good student in grammar school. I was a C average. I went to high school and was average. And then I went to college, and after 3 months, 90 days, I said, hey, the college is not for me. And when I quit, I came home, and my dad and mom were the old school where, Tom, if you don't have a college education, a degree, you'll probably never be able to be successful. So when I came home and informed my dad I wasn't going to college, it really broke his heart. In fact, he was a strong man. I'd never seen him cry, and tears filled his eyes. And he said, son, I'll always love you because you're my son. Even though now that you're not going to get a degree or go to college, I know you'll probably never amount to anything. And that to me was my first real motivational talk, where in essence, he threw down a gauntlet. He says, if you don't go to college, you'll become nothing. And that was a gauntlet to me. And I went into my bedroom, sat on the bed, somewhat depressed. And that night, my uncle Don Hanson came for dinner, and he walked into my bedroom and says, Tom, is it true what I've heard from your father that you quit college? I says, Uncle Don, I don't want to go to college. And he said, son, what are you going to do with your life? And I said, I have no idea. And of course, he said, listen, he was the general manager of a huge steel construction company, Bethlehem Steel, in Los Angeles. And of course, he said, Tom, we've been given the job to build the Los Angeles Dodger Stadium in Chavez Ravine, and we need iron workers to carry steel. And I said, what the heck? I'm not doing anything else. So I became an iron worker. And it was the hardest, Cliff, the hardest physical labor on the planet is being an iron worker on a bridge deck or on like the Dodger Stadium. And I carried steel for a year, and I outworked most of the men. I was young, I was athletic, I was strong. And so I really carried steel fast. And there used to kind of be a joke that the older guys on the job, I'm talking 30, 40, that's old back then for me at 18, they didn't want to carry steel with me. They said, that kid runs too hard, he works too hard, I don't want to carry steel with him. Well, I always joke with my audiences at a seminar, I'm 5'7" tall, but I always laugh at the audience and say, yeah, when I started carrying steel, I was 6'2". And look at me now, I'm 5'7", as a joke. But anyway, I carried steel for a year. And my father came over to my little apartment. I had to move out. We were at odds. And he came to my apartment and he said, Tommy, I was Tommy back then when I was young. He said, Tommy, Uncle Don says you outwork every man on the job carrying steel. And I just want you to know I'm proud of your work ethic. And he says, don't you want to do something else with your life? I says, Dad, I don't know what else I can do. I have no education. I don't have much money. He said, well, you've got a nice way with people, and you're now 18, which I had just turned. And in California, you can get a real estate license. And right away, of course, up went flags. And I said, Dad, I'd have to pass an exam, and I'm not that smart. Well, he, again, in a way, convinced me that I should try. Sure enough, I failed the real estate exam 3 times. Thought, okay, I guess I'm destined to be an iron worker. And I got talked into trying the 4th time. And that was the first time I passed, and I got a license. But then the challenge I had, Cliff, was I was not only 18, I looked young, and that was unheard of back in those days, to be a teenager in real estate, it was unheard of. It was a middle-aged man's business back then. In fact, not to be sexist, but today women control the residential real estate field pretty much in most offices. But back then, there were hardly any women, maybe none, and no teenagers. So I was unique. And I also didn't have a car. I was on a motorcycle. So every broker I would interview with, would look at me at an 18-year-old kid. I had no car. And so I got turned down on lots of interviews. And finally, one broker said, son, I shouldn't be doing this because you're too young. You don't even have a car. You're riding around on a motorcycle trying to sell houses. But I kind of like you, so I'm going to give you a chance. And he did. And of course, for both of us, it was a wonderful experience. And I got into real estate. And I think in life, success comes when you find a niche. It'd be like some of my friends. Wayne Gretzky is a friend, and he, of course, found the niche in hockey in Edmonton, Calgary, Canada, and then moved to LA. Then every person I feel who achieves a high level of accomplishment finds what we call their niche. And to me, after I started figuring out what to do, real estate became a niche. And in my 8 years in real estate, I not only had a lot of fun, but I helped so many families buy a property. And of course, I have them come up today. I was in San Francisco a while back, and a man came up. I was autographing some books at the break, and he came up to the stage, and I looked up, and he didn't have a book. I said, yes, sir. He goes, Tom, I'm not here to get an autographed book. I'm here to thank you. And then he gave me the year, which was almost 40 years ago. He says, my wife and I walked into your real estate office, and we wanted to rent a property. We had no money, or very little money. And you were so insistent that we opened our minds to not renting a home, but owning our own home. And we opened our mind, and sure enough, you found a property with creative financing and got us into our little property at $18,950. Well, I came by because we saw your ad in the newspaper on this seminar, and my wife said, go down and just thank him because we're retiring, and that $18,950 home we've just sold for $430,000, which after all the charges, we'll have our greatest part of our net worth to retire on, thanks to you being so insistent and persuasive that we purchase a home instead of rent a home. And we wanted to thank you for that. Well, I think that's really what I call the payment to a great salesperson, is when people that you've made a sale to thank you down the road for helping them say yes to invest their money with you. So I think that's really been a highlight in my life, to help people, and of course watch the appreciation of real estate and watch all these folks retire and have their net worth be so enhanced, because many years ago I helped them say yes to ownership instead of paying a landlord to live in their property. So that's kind of a highlight.
That is one of the warm fuzzies, the rewarding thing. The bank account, well, I always tell my agents, your bank account is just a measure of how well you help other people. That's all it is. It's just a way to keep your score. One of the things that comes to mind here, Tom, is you've obviously had some very good training yourself. You probably had some people who really inspired you and helped you along the way. Who at that young age, you said your broker was very helpful, but who are the people that had influence in your life and in your growth at that stage in your life?
Well, when we talk about attitude and motivation, a man named Earl Nightingale, who...
Secret, yes.
Yeah, he wrote or made a record. This is back before we had cassettes even. He had a record called The Strangest Secret. And I got that record, and I listened and listened and listened to Mr. Nightingale. So I would call him, on the motivation aspect, my trainer. Another man, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, and his wife Ruth, I followed a lot of his ideas, concepts. Again, he was one of my mentors. But my main mentor was a man named J. Douglas Edwards, which very few people today would even know who he was. But back in the 60s, he literally had a title of America's #1 sales trainer. And he had seminars and he taught the art of closing the sale. And that was kind of the real specialty of him. I mean, we'd go and see all the speakers on a big platform, thousands of them. And then Mr. Nightingale would come out, and most of the folks didn't take notes. But when he'd walk out and start teaching his closing skills, boy, everybody took notes. And it was, kind of a funny story how fate is. I followed him for my 8 years in real estate, learned every one of his strategies, techniques, closes. And when I decided to retire from listing and selling property, I had an opportunity to buy a business in Phoenix, Arizona. I was then in California living. And I moved from California to Arizona. And I knew Mr. Edwards, my main mentor, lived somewhere in Arizona. Well, I had a P.O. box, so I wrote him a little note. Mr. Edwards, I'm coming to Arizona. Hopefully someday we can have lunch, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's how fate is, and my life has been filled with these type of stories. But I buy a home in Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, Arizona, a beautiful property. And the day I'm moving in, it's about 5 p.m, and I'm in the garage helping the movers bring in some of the furniture. And suddenly I hear this voice. And of course, as soon as I hear the voice, I'd been listening to this voice on records and cassettes when they first came out for years. And he said, "Is Tom Hopkins here?" And of course, I turned around, and there standing in my garage is Mr. J. Douglas Edwards. And of course, I was just knocked out. I said, "Mr. Edwards, what are you doing here in my garage?" He says, "Tom, I thought," or Tommy, or Tom, whatever. He says, "I thought I should come and welcome my new next door neighbor to the neighborhood." Well, here out of 4 million approximate people in Arizona, having no idea where he lived, I buy a home right next door to him. And there again, these type of things always have happened to me. He, of course, knew that I wanted to own this real estate school and teach real estate, how to get licensed, then how to make sales of property. Well, he and I became not only close friends, but he saw that I had a talent to teach, to motivate and work with people in the field of selling. And he became my #1 mentor. And I would spend many an hour sitting at his feet, letting him teach me not only the art of selling, but how to become a great speaker, which hopefully I am considered that. But long and short of it, these are the type of doors that I have had open to me. I was supposed to do a little talk because the year I sold 365 homes in a year, which had never been done, so that was averaging 1 home sold a day. They asked me to speak at the National Convention in Los Angeles. And of course, I was only 24 years of age. I was going to do a little breakout session, maybe have 150 people. There was 5,500 at the convention. And I decided I'm going on at 1 o'clock with my 150 folks. But I decided to put my suit, tie, and my speaker badge on, and I went down to the floor where the seminar was, or the speakers were, because I had a badge. I could be behind the curtain on the stage. And sure enough, at 8 o'clock, it's supposed to start. Well, about 10 minutes after 8, the president of the association comes over and says, "Tom, our featured speaker, famous author, is caught in LA traffic and we can't start. Can you go on?" Well, of course, here I'm standing there going, well, I can talk to 5,000 plus people or just my 150 at lunch. And I said, you bet, I'll go on. He said, you can only speak till he shows up, the featured speaker. So I went out and I shot it to him for 12 minutes. And they'd never heard me talking about these words we don't say when we're making a sale. They're fear producers. And I covered these 10 words, and sure enough, 12 minutes, I hit the 10th word. And the president of the association comes out, says, Tom, our featured speaker's arrived. And he turned to the audience. He says, what'd you think of this young man? And of course, I'm not being braggadocious with this, but Cliff, they gave me a standing ovation you would not believe, because no one had ever taught what we call the 10 rejection words in selling. And so that's kind of how I got started. And of course, my phone started ringing off the hook when I got back to my office in real estate, and companies were calling saying, we had heard that short little talk, but we were so impressed. Can you come to our company and teach? And I still sold real estate, but I spent about 2 years, Cliff, going to companies and teaching absolutely for free, because I knew I could not learn this field of teaching unless I did a lot of it. And that's why any great athlete did a lot of practice before they got in front of paid people. As I mentioned, Wayne Gretzky became a man I played a lot of golf with in California when I lived there. And he, of course, was a great example. After playing golf with him one day, I said, Wayne, you don't know a lot about me, but I'm in the seminar business, and I teach people the art of selling. And I would love to have you tell me why you think you did so well in hockey, which he did. I mean, he was kind of known as the man they all wanted to get, because if he was taken down, the team would lose. Their team would lose. But he said the P word. I love the P word. He said, Tom, I think I did well in hockey because I had a burning passion for all aspects of the sport. I had a passion for practice, a passion for winning, a passion for even losing. And so he's the one that ingrained in my subconscious this word passion. And I really find people that are most successful in life, they love what they do and are passionate about it. And this passion comes across with their enthusiasm and excitement and really love for what they do. And that's why sometimes people come to the seminar and they'll come up at the break and they'll say, Tom, I'm thinking about going into sales. I'm not in sales now, but I came to your seminar. Where can I make the most money? And I always say to them, don't decide what you're going to go into based on income or money. You got to find something you have a passion for that you love. And that was me in real estate. I had 8 glorious years. I loved it. But I think that's one of the keys to success, Cliff, is you got to have a passion for what you do. It can't just be a job. It can't just be a way to make money. You have to burn with a passion. I really totally believe that.
I feel what you're saying as a coach. I tell people that at a minimum, you have to show up to work with me with a fire in the belly and a passion and a commitment, right? I can teach you real estate, but I can't. It's not my job to motivate you. Okay, you need to come up here lit up and ready to play NFL ball. Now I got to pause here just for a second. Trelvis just held his hand up and said the phone is ringing off the wall. People are calling, wanting to know those 10 words, Tom.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, boy. All right.
Not to put you on the spot, but
No. The first is prospect. We don't want to use the word prospect. We want to use client, just because it's better. And also, when you meet people, the first thing you want to work on is your original contact. which means how you come across verbally and visually. And then, of course, the next fundamental is qualification, where you become what I call a master asker, where you ask great questions. Then, of course, when you have those three, you then go into your presentation, where you literally present what you are offering to them. Now, if you do a good presentation, most people can't say yes till they first say no. So you're going to get the next fundamental, which means they're going to give you objections, some type. It costs too much. We're going to think it over. So you then have to learn the next fundamental, which is how to handle objections and take a no into a yes. And then, of course, the next fundamental is closing the sale, which is a true art form. And it's not luck, wit, charm, smile. It's an art form of asking questions, being an excellent listener, and knowing the art of leading people to the final yes by even getting minor yeses. And then if you are good at closing sales, you then have to do the next fundamental, which is get referrals from the people that you make the sale to. Because almost everybody, if they like you and trust you, and they'll invest their money in what you're offering, they'll also help you meet other folks. So the key is to always go for the referrals. And then, of course, you've got to have your goal set, which is following up, keeping in touch. And I've always lived by a little saying: if you have a qualified person, you must keep in touch, follow up till they buy or die. So in essence, that's an overview of the fundamentals of any sale of any product or service.
Be sure from now on that I credit you with that buy or die, because we use it a lot. And I'm just let me take the liberty here. I'm gonna throw this at you and let you expand on it. But I read in one of your pieces that you said that the average real estate salesperson knows 2 closes, and maybe you've heard them. They go like this: well, what do you think? And the real powerhouse is, shall we go ahead? That's not closing, it's order taking, and that's why those people earn an order taker's income. Top closing specialists usually accomplish the final closing after the 5th attempt. So to earn a champion's income, you must learn more ways to ask for the decision.
So very true. I think in my book, How to Master the Art of Selling, we have at least 45 closing scripts, techniques. You know, if they say, I want to think it over, we have 73 words that we master. If they say it costs too much, we have 14. Today, most things do. John, can you tell me about how much too much you feel it is? And with that little sentence, I now have an amount of money which I can then handle. And I've gotten away from, I want to think it over, we're going to sleep on it, we'll get back to you, or all those stalls that are so normal in a selling situation.
That's magic. I mean, you know, I on the way over here, I was just thinking about your contribution to our industry. And isn't it funny that you can go get a degree in real estate and learn nothing about sales? You can get a degree in marketing and learn nothing about sales. Why is it, Tom, that it takes somebody to put together what you put that it's not more? Why aren't more businesses and colleges embracing what you're teaching and making it more a part of the curriculum?
Well, I think one of the reasons is you really can't teach something unless you've done it. In other words, there are very few people in the field of teaching that really went out, got in the street, put their ego on the line, went on to knock doors or pick up a phone and get told no, because rejection is not enjoyable for anybody. So just the word selling or get into sales, many people right away go, no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't be that pushy, which the great salespeople are not pushy. If anything, I call them pulley. See, you push a person when you make a statement of fact. This is something you should do. That's a statement of fact. That's pushy. When you're a great salesperson or a communicator, you don't make a lot of statement of facts. You try to do your best to ask a lot of questions, because in asking questions, you're learning what you need to know. And there's a basic truth, Cliff, that in any conversation, whoever is talking is only learning what they already know. But in a good communication skill, if you're asking the right questions and getting them to talk, you're going to learn what you need to know to lead them to the final yes to invest in your product, your service, or whatever you're hoping they say yes to.
Asking questions really and building rapport. I must say that my father was a very successful salesperson, and it was before your time, but back when I was, knee high to a tall baseball player, he'd give me books, and a couple of them he gave me were, one was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and the other was a couple of Zig's books, See You at the Top and so forth. You've, on your seminar tours and the many millions, literally, of people that you've trained and so forth, who were some of the contemporaries that you've worked with? Did you guys ever, you and Zig, ever connect and do anything
Sure.
together? Yeah.
Zig and I were dear friends, and today his son Tom and I are very good friends. But no, the first time I ever got on a stage to do a program was in Santa Monica, California, and it was following Mr. Zig Ziglar. And, he and I hit it off, became friends. We traveled through different areas, and then we even had a tour of Australia, he and I together. And he was a very, very important man in my life. And a funny story is he and I had a seminar in California, and he came to my room at the break, and he opened up this big program thing, and it had cassettes in it. And this was when all we had were records. There were no cassettes. They weren't available, but they had just come out, and he went and put his whole closing course on cassette. And he brought it to my room, and of course I invested in it. He said, we want you to have this first cassette program that we've made, and it's X number of dollars. And I said, no way, I'll take it, man. And I guess I put that in my car back when we first, in fact, back then we didn't have cassette players in the car. I had to get a little portable and put it in my car. And I hope the folks that are watching this will realize that you're going to spend, and this is an average 5,000 hours approximately, driving in your car in your whole life and career and business. And that can be music or news, negativity news, or it can be inspirational, motivational training. And, I'm so thrilled as I'm kind of winding my life down somewhat. I'm not retiring. Amazon has been so great. They have taken all my books and CDs and all my DVDs, all our training, and they are marketing it at huge discounts. And so anybody might be interested, if they go to Amazon and ask for the Tom Hopkins sales products, there might be something there that they might want to add to their life. But I so hope that they'll turn their cars, I call it turning your car into a classroom, where every driving mile can be a learning mile. And that's, of course, what I suggest people do. There's another philosophy, and that is try to always do two things at once. Anything you're doing from the subconscious without thought, do something else as well. It's kind of like I always had a little portable cassette player in the bathroom in the morning, because I could shower, not have to think about washing me, but take a shower and listen to motivational or ideas, concepts. And so I hope the folks will realize that the old classics of turning your car into a classroom will always work. I mean, do two things at once. When you're driving and putting on the gas, stepping on the brake, you're not thinking. It's all a total reflex. So that's just a concept I wanted to share, Cliff.
I love that. And we so many times we've told our agents, do not use your radio for music or news. Get CDs or MP3s, plug your phone in, whatever,
Sure.
and take that time to learn something. You're going to be stuck there anyway. You might as well make
Sure.
good use of the time, right? Well, speaking of technology, Tom, how has the technology, since you started with, cassettes and records and everything
Sure.
else, the distribution of your material, everything has changed. How has that impacted really sort of how you do your business, and then how has it impacted your content?
Well, there's no doubt about it. Technology and all the assets that people have in their business today are wonderful. There's nothing wrong. The challenge is technology can be a blessing and a curse, meaning some people hide behind technology to avoid the possibility of personal rejection by talking to people. I had one man in my office when I had 18 salespeople in real estate. I had one man that he was a fanatic on technology. When a computer had just come out, the challenge was he hid behind it instead of really getting out and talking to people or picking up the phone, making calls. Because I really believe selling will always be a contact sport where you have to make more contacts. And this, I think, is what successful people do. They make more contacts, they follow up. I also believe today, Cliff, more than even back when I started doing it, the little things that make you different, the sending of thank you notes. Now, here we are in high technology, but I still believe that the personalized little handwritten note has more power today because no one is doing it. And I know, gosh, people ask me, Tom, you've been sending thank you notes all your real estate career and you still do it, which I do. If I have a seminar and someone comes up and says, I made a lot of money and thanks to your training and blah, 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 I get their card and on the way flying home, I always carry little thank you notes and I'll send them one. And what's amazing when you send a thank you note, like these are the kind of the ones I use. It says a note for you, which is not real fancy, but it's a kind of a nice little thing to do. And I send these out and I'll always do it. And I don't care how much technology we have. If I'm the only one that they get a handwritten thank you note and a nice little card from, they will remember me. And I have gotten business over the years primarily because that I was the only one that took the time, the envelope, the stamp, and sent them the old-fashioned thank you note.
I remember back when George Bush Sr. was interviewed, and the interviewer was asking him about why in the world he had people loved him at the White House, all the staff there, and you could really tell that he just had a great relationship with so many people, and the reporter said, what do you attribute that to? And he looked at the reporter and said, well, Barbara and I make it a point every day to write 10 thank you cards.
Wow.
To somebody, whether it's the president of Russia or the chief cook in the White House kitchen. We would find 10 people that we could, just write a note to. And I think what you're saying is so powerful. And I think if we're not careful, we've got a generation of people here who think the cell phone is not made for talking; it's only made for texting, and that's really, there's only 7% of communication that takes place in the words. There's no tonality, there's no body language, And I've never been involved in a real estate transaction, Tom, where there wasn't a phone call that took place somewhere along the line, right?
Sure.
And really, the
Right.
sooner that phone call happens, the first person to get face to face with that potential client is the one that's going to win 99% of the time. So it is
So
it's
true.
really so. Yes, I totally agree with you. Well, Tom, I am so excited. My son's over here. I know he's got some things he'd like to ask you, but we got a bit of a late start, and I just wanted to respect your time. And
Oh, no, I'm fine.
are
If
you
he
doing
has a
okay?
question or two, what's
Okay.
your question?
Did you have anything, C3? I think.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick question for you. I mean, I know how things have changed in the past and how they are today in regards to some of the people that you used to look up to. Are there any people that you suggest besides yourself that someone my age should start looking after or looking up to in regards to some industry leaders?
Well, what I would suggest you do is if you'll go to the National Speakers Association, and of course, go to their website, National Speakers Association, and you'll look up people, and there are some younger, uh, really wonderful teachers and trainers that are still out there that you might want to look into. Most of them today have a preview program where you can see what they teach, get a feel for how they come across, how you relate to them. And this would be my suggestion, National Speakers Association, and go through their inventory of people, speakers. And I think you'll be hit on some folks that might be right what you're looking for. So give that a try.
Awesome, thank you.
That's really interesting. Is Toastmasters still as
Oh,
popular as it
yeah,
used to be?
I think so. In fact, I think in almost every major city, there is a Toastmasters Association that has meetings. And this is a great place. If they do have a Toastmasters in your city, you should probably follow up, go to their meetings. You'll hobnob with people in business like yourself. And so I think that's an excellent idea, Cliff, to look at that as a great source for maybe meeting the right folks to have a camaraderie with. Good idea.
Of other things that people who are new in the business, there's only been a couple of, I guess, handbooks about real estate written. Of course, your book is really, top when it comes to sales. When you were getting into real estate, you had a coach, I believe, right? That was one of the things that you decided was
Yeah.
important.
Well, what happened was I was, just brand new, scared to death, no money. And I went to a seminar, and the instructor at the program, very successful, he said, go back to your company and find out who makes the most money. Then ask if you can meet with them. And many of these people will let you watch and listen to them. Well, of course, I'm always been coachable. If I go to someone who's more successful and they say, do this, I always try to do it. Well, there was a woman, this is in Southern California. It was we were with one of the largest real estate companies, and her name was Rose Lane. And I did research, found out she made the most money. And sure enough, I called her, went to her office, and she was so gracious. I said, Mrs. Lane, I was just now a little over 18, scared to death, no money, hoping I can stay in real estate. And she was so gracious. She said, you can come with me to take a listing on a property. And then, of course, when I show homes, if you can make the schedule, you can ride with me as a trainee. And I did. And of course, I took notes. I listened to how she came across, what she said. And she was my first real mentor in real estate. And then, as I mentioned, J. Douglas Edwards became my real mentor in the art of closing the sale. But I really feel we need to do that. We need to find people that have succeeded at whatever they do in life, is primarily in sales for what we're talking about. But you have to almost see if they'll let you watch and hear what they do and say, because a lot of success is repetitively saying what works. And if they're making a lot of money, what they're saying is working, if that makes any sense.
It sure does. And I think a lot of agents get into the business and they try right away to be creative and to reinvent the wheel. And the reality is they need to learn the blocking and tackling first and get really good at that. And then, then maybe later on they can get creative. So again, the numbers are pretty dismal in our industry. About 82% of people who get a real estate license fail to renew it upon the first renewal. Tom, why are most of these people failing?
Well, I think no one's teaching them exactly what to say and do. Too many real estate offices, they'll hire a person and say, there's your desk and there's your phone and lots of luck, you're on your own. And that's kind of a truth, which is sad. I know I probably would have not made it had I not done what I was told and found this top producer, Rose Lane, and literally copied what she said to people. Because we are, in a way, in the word business. And the words you say create emotions and feelings and actions. So I think the phraseology and words, as I mentioned earlier, are so critical to make you a success in this art of selling.
You've written the book literally on it. And as I said earlier at the beginning of the show, in my opinion, you'll be the first one in the Hall of Fame for real estate sales training. If people wanted to find out more information, you did mention Amazon. What's another good way for people to kind of get to know you better and get access to some of your products and start benefiting from the work that you've done?
Well, of course, Tom Hopkins International, because I'm winding down my speaking career, we don't have a lot of stuff here, but Amazon has all my books and CDs and DVDs. They really are discounting them tremendously. So I would think that the folks that might be interested in more of what we do should go to Amazon. And I think that would be my best suggestion. Because right now, our little company here in Phoenix, Arizona, is kind of winding down, and we don't really market a lot of products from our offices anymore. So that might be the idea. Amazon would be the key.
Super. And then would you speak just a little bit about the relationship that you have with EXP now and how you're offering your training to the agents?
Oh, yeah. And Cliff, I'm glad you said that because I'm really excited. Glenn, who's the founder, the company is exploding. I mean, I cannot tell you the thousands of people joining EXP. And they approached me because Glenn was through my seminar, well, I can't tell you how many years ago when we were young people, but they have really taken my training. And I'm thrilled that I'm kind of a partner with Glenn and his people. And they're taking my real estate training, primarily only my real estate listing and selling training, and they have the exclusive rights to it. And of course, I'm also doing some traveling and doing some Zoom training with EXP. But the company has exploded, and I'm just proud, and I'm glad you brought it up. But it's been for me a new thing to do, as I'm kind of winding down, getting on a plane every week and flying somewhere to speak. So thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely. I mean, we follow you in workplace and are always excited. I've been in this business 30 too many years. And I will honestly tell you that every time I watch you and Glenn or watch one of your trainings, I learn something new. I mean, it's just like I feel like, wow, how come I haven't learned that yet? And that's really, when you're in this business, it is continuous learning and continuous process improvement And even though with all the technology, you just, I mean, you nailed it. You hit it on the head. This is a contact business. It'll always be about relationships. You will not be buying nice, expensive homes out of a vending machine. It's not going to happen. There are too many emotional and logical hurdles that have to be crossed for somebody to really not to have an expert advisor on their sides. And I know that many people that I work with, my contemporaries, can credit you and tip their hat because you've played a big role and a big part in their success. And we're grateful and thankful that you made this your career to help people, and that's kind of where we are at this point. And at least me, coming from contribution and trying to help as many people get what they want as I can, and you have a tremendous legacy, and just excited as heck again to have you on the show today. Is there anything that Tom, that C3 here and myself didn't ask you that maybe we should have?
No, but I will say this. I'd like to kind of leave with having folks not only hear, but write down my champion creed. And I think all of us need to have one type of creed that we live by. And I have had this one for many years. And so if the folks are interested, I'll repeat it a couple times and explain it. This is my champion. I call it the champion creed. And it goes like this: I am not judged by the number of times I fail, but by the number of times I succeed. And the number of times I succeed is in direct proportion to the number of times I can fail and keep trying. And if you analyze that creed, you have to accept the fact that I'm not judged by the number of times I fail. And many people have to realize that life and selling and business is a cycle business, to where you'll hit a period where everything you touch turns to gold. And then you can have a cycle or a period where everything you touch turns to something other than gold. So you're not judged by the number of times you fail, but by the number of times I succeed. And the number of times I succeed is in direct proportion to the number of times I can fail and keep trying. And the words keep trying are so critical for long-term success. And so again, you're not judged by the number of times you fail, but by the number of times you succeed. And the number of times you succeed is in direct proportion to the number of times you can fail and keep trying. So all of you, thank you for letting us give you some wisdom. And I hope you'll apply it. And as always, Cliff, love the short time we spend. And hopefully the folks walk away with some things that they can add to their daily life to be not only happier, more successful, but become the person they dream to become.
And I know that's heartfelt. And ladies and gentlemen, those are magical words of wisdom from the master himself. Tom, we love you, and we thank you just for sharing with us today. And we'd love to get you back on the show. If you would oblige us at some point. It's always great to keep up with you and follow you now, especially with your involvement with our company. It's so fantastic, and we wish you the best. I know that this part of your career is really a highlight, and I'm so excited for you, because I know you've got a lot more work that you're going to do and a lot more lives that you're going to touch and change before you check out of the business here. So thank you again, all the way from Phoenix, Arizona. C3.
Man, thank you, Tom.
Pure gold, huh?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both. And please, let's set a date and give them another shot. And I'm always available if you set it up with Judy. And all the best to you. Thanks so much again.
Will do. Thank you, Tom. Sure is great to see you again. I wish you the
bet.
best health. You look awesome. You look terrific. Oh my God.
Well, thank
C3. That is the OG Hall of Famer himself, Mr. Tom Hopkins.
Yeah,
What
you're glowing.
what an honor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what a privilege to have him on the show.
Super cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a great guy.
I'm still just,
Yeah.
I got goosebumps, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Great stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for being here. I hope you filled up your notebook with great words of wisdom from Tom. And again, I still think the Cowboys are not going to lose this weekend, but we want to thank you for being here, and
Yep.
we'll catch you next week again on the next episode of Cliff's Notes. All right, folks, tune in to Cliff's Notes every Thursday at 1 o'clock Central for the tips, tricks, and tactics to explode your business. I guarantee it.